and welcome to Loving the Planets for the week of September 18th, 2017. I'm Armand Diaz in New York.
And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin. And what a busy week, Armand. I mean, this is quite incredible, really. I mean, we've got a new moon in Virgo, we've got the equinox, we've got all kinds of aspects going on.
It's a very busy week. Venus was very busy last week, and for relationships, that's very, very important. You can expect that there's been a lot of things happening in relationship. Another thing that happens, actually, you mentioned that Venus goes into Virgo, and she does so on the day of the new moon, Tuesday. Before that, she goes over the eclipse degree from the August 21st eclipse. So the way that everything else has been sort of triggered, Venus is going to be kind of triggering from late Leo. So it's a very, very exciting week. And you know how it is with exciting.
Yes, I know we've had quite a bit of excitement these past few months. I mean, this part of me thinks, oh goodness, are we going to get some peace? But anyway, yes, I'd forgotten about that Venus over the eclipse degree. That will kind of be interesting. So maybe, do you think that it might be that in relationships, something that maybe started during that eclipse, solar eclipse period, this is maybe something that might get resolved or might come to a conclusion, so that there's certainly something might happen during that time?
Yeah, very much so. I would think that things that were, remember that the solar eclipse was the last new moon. It was a month ago now. And so this is the revisit time, and with Venus triggering it. Look at where you were in your relationships right around August 20th, 21st, right in that time, and see where you've come, and then expect to get a little bit more of the story as we head into this new moon. It could be a time of endings or beginnings.
And all this Virgo energy. I mean, we've gone from kind of having a lot of Leo energy in the sky, which is much more fiery and dynamic, to a lot of this Virgo energy, which has a whole different feel about it. And, you know, I know the cliche is always Virgo is about being of service, but it really is. And it's also about being discerning. It's about being more analytical. It's kind of an interesting sign, Virgo, because even though it's Earth, I always think that it has that very intellectual, analytical quality to it, and that we have to be so careful not to slide into self-criticism and perfectionism really with it.
Yeah, I think I very much so. And now with Venus in Virgo, especially, because now Venus will join Mercury and the Sun and Mars. There's a whole gaggle of planets in Virgo, so there's a lot of very strong Virgoan energy, and there is a tendency towards the story is that it's to be critical, but I think you're right. It has a lot to do with being self-critical. And that's not great for a relationship. I mean, being critical of others is not great for relationships, but being self-critical is certainly not a good idea. And I think that is something, to watch out for over the next month or so. Although the sun is on his way out of Virgo on Friday into Libra.
True. And also one thing to remember about Virgo that sometimes gets forgotten is that it is quite a sensual sign, like all the earth signs. So to kind of maybe put the emphasis on that in relationships and, drop the perfectionism a little bit and kind of allow for the sensuality. So this new moon, what do you think of this new moon, Armand? Because it's got quite a lot of aspects. I mean, it's quincunx Uranus, which kind of gives it maybe a little bit of a jagged feeling, but also does push us into new beginnings. It really does kind of give us that umph.
Well, it's very late in Virgo. It's right around 27 degrees of Virgo.
It is 27, yeah.
And, so we're kind of getting that mission, that Virgo service mission. And then the sun is going, the moon will be out of the sun in a jiffy, and then the sun is out a couple of days later. I always think about the Virgo new moon as being a time to sort of get yourself straight for the rest of the year. This is a good time to sort of reconnoiter after the summer and sort of go forward with see what needs to be done. And, in terms of relationship, I think it's a little bit of, what are some of the practical things you can do? What are some of the practical matters that you need to attend to with your partner?
And also not to forget that Virgo is about health. And sometimes health is one of the things we don't think about in relationships. But if we don't take care of our health and welfare, then it really does impinge on relationships, because it's, it can get kind of dropped at the door of a partner as well. And then the partner can get into like a parental role or be worried or whatever. So kind of our well-being, exercise, all of those kind of things, which for those of us who are going into, of course, the autumn equinox, on on the Friday, we're kind of going into the fall. So we're going into kind of colder weather, and there isn't really a great desire to be out there jogging or whatever. But it is important to keep those things in mind with Virgo, and what are we eating, all of those health issues.
It's a really good point. And with Venus going into Virgo, I kind of feel that this week, it doesn't seem to me to be like a ton of fun per se. It seems like maybe it's more of a time to focus on some of those very practical, earthy health issues and so on. Maybe, after the summer and stuff like that, it's time to sort of clean up the act. And if the two of you can kind of get together and say, hey, you know what, we should maybe look at going on a diet and stuff like that. It's
not the most romantic thing, but yeah, good. And also maybe making some lists. Virgo loves lists. So if you're anybody that's into making lists, it might be great to sit down with your significant other or with your family members and make some lists of good things to do, including even holidays later on. So kind of also put in some of those nice treaty things. So what do you think of the autumnal equinox, Armand? Because it's really, the sun moves into Libra, so that's going to be a shift into that issue of balance and relationships, and maybe wanting relationships a little bit more.
It does bring us towards a focus on relationship. North or south of the equator, you feel that that's where the emphasis goes. And remember, Libra, I mean, it's the sign of the scales, and it's looking for balance. It's looking for harmony. The scales almost suggest, well, they do suggest commerce and, getting your worth. And so there is this sense, I think, of really needing to sort of take the other's perspective, listen to what they're saying. I think that's quite important during the time that the sun and all the other, the sun and eventually Mars and Mercury and Venus will catch up. I think that it's important when there's a lot of energy around Libra to try to really take the other's perspective.
Yes, it's really back to the kind of balance, isn't it? I often think of it like children on a seesaw, and they're kind of, really, it's getting that point of balance, so one doesn't go flying up and the other comes kind of flying down.
Yeah.
And also, of course, the usual Libra theme of value, self-value, value for the other person, or, all of those themes are kind of really, really important. One thing I wanted to mention before I forget as well is that with the new moon, it's also opposite Chiron in Pisces. So I think that there might be potential for some healing as well in relationships, so I think, that might be an opportunity, because Virgo is also about healing. I mean, often it's connected with the sign of Chiron, even though traditionally it's assigned to Sagittarius, but I really think there is something about the healing quality that might happen with this new moon. And it's a time of new starts, so there's lots of good possibilities.
But Margaret, we're talking about this week as though somehow or another it was going to be, we're going to get a nice big bag of granola and some kale, and we're just going to sit around and take care of ourselves and so on. The truth of the matter is that on Friday we have Mercury is going to be trine to Pluto, and on Sunday we have Mars opposite Neptune, and that could make for some pretty exciting energy, and exciting in all the different ways. Mercury Pluto certainly suggests a very serious conversation, but the opportunity to express yourself. And Mars Neptune, that can be very passionate and sexual, but there can be a tendency to sort of take things a little bit to an extreme when we have Mars Neptune energy. That can be sort of going overboard. And if in the event that you were having a bit of a fight, a bit of a row there with Mars opposite Neptune, it could be very hard to restrain yourself, especially if Mercury Pluto has stirred up some words. So I think, the weekend is liable to be very, very good, or no.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe Saturday evening might be a good date night, might be the least kind of challenging, maybe the weekend, maybe avoid maybe Friday unless you really want to have that in-depth conversation. As you say, you know, Sunday might just be worth
Oh
kind of
yeah,
just
yeah.
staying at
No,
home.
that is sure. And the moon on Saturday night, actually on Friday and Saturday is going to be in Scorpio, which actually could help things along because it does make nice aspects. It does make nice aspects. But again, that brings us back to the healing thing, and that's, you know, if stuff comes up and we can deal with it, then stuff comes up and we can deal with it. But it's a little bit tricky towards the weekend.
So we're saying it's not a weekend to stay on the surface. It's not a light weekend, basically.
No.
And I guess on that note, we'll leave it and we will see everyone next week. Take care, Armand.
See what happens then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.